How's it going, John? Happy March 32nd.
April 1st does not exist.
No, we've canceled it for this year.
I see. Yeah, no, I actually saw a couple of those things. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to let March go, but it was such a I don't know, weather-wise nice month, but yeah, let's let time march on here because I want to get through this whole COVID thing.
Now on what, week number 3?
I was trying to remember that, but yeah, I think my last day that I went in the office was at least 2 weeks ago.
Well, last week was spring break week. The week before that, we had it all off. So yeah, it would have been, if you'd have gone in on, maybe 2 weeks ago Wednesday?
Maybe, yeah.
3 weeks ago Wednesday?
3 weeks ago. I'd have to look. It seems like it's been a long time. It seems like it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I had a burger. Well, I guess we cooked burgers, sometime last week, but,
we have taken to trying to find, local restaurants that are not chain restaurants and tried to at least order out, which you can still order out for dinner, at least from one of those places a couple times a week. Hopefully they make it through everything that's going on as well, because 2 of them are some of our favorite places to go eat. So we had, so on that we went to our favorite little sushi place and our favorite Thai food place this in the past week. So we'll see. I
don't think we have had any externally cooked food for those 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's been. Which is for us is a little, well, for me particularly, because I almost always go out to lunch when I'm in the office. But it's been different. It's been, and I think that Oregon was one of the earlier states to kind of go, on hard lockdown, probably due to the proximity to Washington.
Yeah, we're sandwiched by California and Washington, so that probably helped somewhat.
Right. So we'll see.
All right, well, I have a question.
Okay.
Have you found this has now occurred in my family? Is somehow the family believes we should be in Hawaii from a time perspective because everybody gets up late, they eat. We eat breakfast around. I don't, because I'm up in air quotes the office. I'm down I'm in the office by 8, but the rest of the family is like eating breakfast at 10, having lunch around 2, and we have dinner like at 8 p.m. We've just time shifted by 2 or 3 hours from our regular schedule. So,
what would the family do if they didn't have time constraints for school?
I now know.
Yeah. Actually, ours are doing...
We would all stay up late.
Yeah. Mine are doing much the same. Yeah. In fact, the School of Mom starts at 10. So basically one of the asks of that is, be awake, have eaten, and be ready to sit down at the table at 10, which is...
Right.
Which is... significantly later than they used to have to get up. and as they're talking about what's going to happen with the school starting up, we just learned tonight that for the school district, they're going to begin not next week, I think, but the week after, having remote classes, and they're going to start at 8 a.m.
Right.
So 8 to 10 and 10 to 12.
There you go.
And if they're only going to do 4 hours, we're like, well, do 10 to 2. Have you ever met a high schooler that wants to get up at 8 o'clock? Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm still setting my alarm, and getting up early. And then I get a couple hours before I even hear movement upstairs. I'm just holed up down in the basement, and I hear movement upstairs, and I'm glad that they can sleep in. That's cool. Mine don't seem to be staying up any later though. They just seem to enjoy their sleep. I can't sleep that much. I try, but no. I can't.
Normally about this time, it's a 10 o'clock on a Wednesday evening as we're recording. And normally at this time, the entire family is, if not asleep, in beds, bedrooms, winding down the day, getting ready to go to sleep. I still hear stomping and everything upstairs, so there may be some extra stomping coming through on the mic from the Wheeler household.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that my dogs are locked in the bedroom yet, so they may be barking at coyotes. Who knows? Who knows? We're professional here. We're all professionals. So what else happened this week? You're from the compound.
So we've been trying to do daily walks,
Nice.
just to get out and, walk around. Like I said, we've been trying to support our local eateries that we enjoy, being able to do that at least a couple times a week. My boy has got 101 ideas that he wants to build for his website, his weather website, and he's also now fascinated by earthquakes after the Salt Lake earthquake a couple weeks ago, and now this past week there was a 6.7 in Boise, mm-hmm. which is halfway between here and Salt Lake. So he's all over weather-related stuff. My other two girls are just, old enough to self-direct, and they're taking care of what they need to do. And my wife is trying to figure out ways not to go crazy, not to go stir crazy, which usually involves coming down to the office around 2 or 3 and saying, come with a walk on me. So I usually have an afternoon half-hour walk. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
We're surviving. How's it at the back 40, the King household, yeah. The King back 40?
It was good. So I was off. I took off last week and I finally towards the end of the week got really going on my electrical wiring job. So I spent many hours pulling wires and wiring up some plugs, and it was the first time I ever wired a 3-way switch. And I've also pulled wires for a 4-way, and the 3-way was funny because I think I spent 5 hours total because I had to put in a bunch of new wires and reroute some stuff that was there, and I put in a couple junction boxes to kind of tie into where the power was coming from, and basically I was adding a switch, but in order to do a 3-way switch, you have the power coming into the first switch, and then you run a 4-wire cable or a 3 wires plus ground over to the other switch, and then from there power to the lights. So, and I'm in a barn, so I used up a lot of cables, and I'm up on a ladder and blah 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 blah. And so I wired it all up, and I flipped the breaker, and the lights come on, and I was so excited. I'm like, whoo, I did it. And I turned off the first light switch, and the lights went off. And I turned it back on, and they went on, and I was like, oh, that's so fantastic. So I went over and flipped the other switch, and the lights went off. I was like, okay, that's great. And then I flipped it back on, and they did not come back on. And I was like, wait, what? How is that possible? and then I go back to the first switch, and then it doesn't work. And then I go back to and I'm like, wait, what? So it didn't make any sense to me. So I'm flipping and debugging, and I flip the breaker back, pull the switches, because of course I'd screwed everything in, and so I pull everything out, and I get my little tester, and I'm like, whoa, there's power here, there's power. Why is there no power here? And this is really weird. And it turned out the problem was I had forgotten where the power was coming from, and I had wired the actual power through a secondary switch, which I had also flipped off.
Oh.
and so I had flipped off the actual power with the other switch. So then like the switch that I had actually thought I was testing in isolation was like the behavior just didn't make any sense. And so anyway, so then I finally realized, I spent an hour debugging it because after I got through that problem, then I realized that only one of the switches was working. And anyway, so yeah, with a combination of three, I'd actually had three compounded bugs in my hardware implementation that eventually I'm like, okay, at least I didn't zap myself. I didn't burn anything up. I didn't do anything bad. I've got a bunch of other stuff pulled, and now I got lots more to do. So anyway, I need another week off to finish. But no, I just need to. It'll go slow these next couple weekends, and I'll have some major progress to report. But anyway, I had a great week off. It was good.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. I mentioned to you earlier, I think my butt is welded to this chair because I've been sitting here so much for the last 3 days. As I really did try not to work that much last week, and but boy, these last 3 days, I'm catching up. Let's say. Because work never actually stops.
No. Well, should we get into some follow-up?
I see a lot of follow-up in the notes.
This is the follow-up episode.
The mostly follow-up.
We could probably summarize a lot of them because a lot of the articles that I saw this week that were follow-up were related to Zoom.
Yeah.
Zoom is everywhere. Zoom is having a heyday.
Good for them.
But of course, along with the increased public attention, kids are using it for school, it's everywhere. That also means that opportunist hackers are also paying a lot more attention to Zoom. And there were a bunch of articles this week, both for the Mac and for Windows, about I think you threw one in about root privilege escalation. I know there's a Windows one.
I was on a Zoom conference last night. But they're a startup. They have had to be good enough security, but they've already had some black eyes. I mean, they had a really bad black eye last year.
Yeah.
They fixed that one, but, now that there's so much more Zooming going on, they better be prepared to react quick.
You saying Zooming, I just thought of that is they went from being like, to find out information, you Google it. Google is a verb. To have a video conference is you Zoom it. Zoom is now not a company name. It's Kleenex.
Isn't it funny?
It's Band-Aid. It's Google. It's Zoom. So good for them. And that's great. But yeah, with the increased visibility, there's going to be increased scrutiny, and hopefully they can get on top of that quick because there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know if we need to actually call it any specific articles. I don't know if you want to mention any specific bits.
We should throw at least a couple of these in the
I'll throw them in the notes.
In the notes, but there's I guess what will be interesting is if they are followed up and fixed so rapidly that we can have them as, follow-ups in the next episode or two. Because some of these are bad enough that they will hopefully be fixed within, days, not weeks.
And then I also threw a couple coronavirus items in the follow-up. One is a link, a Twitter feed where, I don't know, do you call them ambulance chasers? I don't know. Is that a fair statement? But they're people who are creating website templates for coronavirus, ready to use for corona prevention website, or use us for coronavirus awareness and prevention template. So they're selling templates probably for WordPress or other types of online web sources. So that's interesting. And then the other one was a cell phone data tracking. What this company created a short video where, using their software and anonymous cell phone data that they claim, I don't know, I won't get into the whether or not it's truly anonymous data, cell phone data. But what they did was they took cell phone pings on a beach in Florida, and then they took those values, and then after those values had been collected for a week, the weeks for the next month after spring break, or the next few weeks after spring break, they said, where did those anonymous cell phone devices ping from? And so the end of the video shows you basically in the entire eastern United States has people descended upon Florida for spring break and then went home. I didn't see any little dots in Oregon. So not many people from Oregon apparently went to Florida for spring break, but that just shows you how easy it is to spread something. You know, if someone caught something down there at spring break, they took it home to Michigan or Iowa or wherever. So
wow.
I thought the video was a kind of an eye-opening video from the beginning to the end, you know, ignoring any of the cell phone tracking stuff.
Yeah, I just watched it. It is, that is interesting.
So those were the two follow-up things I had thrown in.
Oof.
And then we could talk about our Breach of the Week.
Breach of the Week.
There's two of them.
I saw both of these fly by.
Apparently there's a company named Under the Breach. So there's a security company who's basically just said, you know, we're just going to focus on breaches. And so you can go.
I did not know that. I have not heard of that.
Yeah, it was new to me. They have breach services. Anyways. So the first one was about the country of Georgia. So not the U.S. state, but the country of Georgia had pretty much the personal details of every citizen leaked onto a hacking forum. And there's about 5 million records. And considering the current population is about 3.7, apparently that database included a large number of deceased citizens as well. So
didn't Georgia, I thought I had seen something about Georgia saying that it hadn't actually come from them.
The original leaker had posted that you can go to the Georgia's Central Election Commission to verify the data. And Georgia's Central Election Commission said, hey, the data did not come from us. It has data that we don't collect, so it couldn't have come from us. And later, the article was updated with the leaker apparently says, I didn't get it from the Central Election Commission. That was my misunderstanding and lack of knowledge of the English language. So they clarified that you could just use the CEC's website, which apparently has a public portal, if you wanted to verify that the data was real, but it wasn't actually obtained from there. But they don't say where it was obtained from. Georgia are now investigating the breach. So
okay, yeah. Well, there've been a couple of countries that have had their voting rolls hacked in the last year.
Yeah,
releasing millions of records, which is
popular target.
Hard to pull it back.
Yep. And then the second one, I know you saw. I think you actually posted in the Slack was the Marriott one.
I did.
They have a web portal to see if you're affected. I think it's over 5 million. It's from their loyalty program. So they say that no financial data was exposed. It's just your loyalty number and stuff related to your loyalty number, like room preferences, where you stayed, things like that. But I went to the web portal to see if I'm in that list. And it is a very complicated and a verification-rich process. You go to the website, you put in your information, you submit, they send you a code, a one-time code. It has CAPTCHA up the wazoo. You send in the one-time code. It says, all right, we've received your information. We've verified that it's really you. Now we're going to go do our research and we will contact you when we have the data for that. You can click here to see to see progress.
Huh.
I did that an hour or so ago, And I don't know if I have not gotten an update yet. So I don't know. It's not an automated process, apparently.
Well, they're not going to look up 5 million people by hand. Not that 5 million people are going to actually query it, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. However the process works, it's not have I been pwned? Here's an email address. Tell me if you've seen it. It's there's something else going on.
That's funny. That's weird. Well, I have a Marriott guest account, so it's good chance I'm in there. Although 5 million's small, didn't the breach from last year have like 60 million or something like that?
It was originally estimated at 500 million, but it got revised down to 383 million.
Oh, wow. It's still 5 times larger.
But that was also, I think it was they had merged with Starwood, and I think the bulk of it was the Starwood half of the data that went like, anyways. Yeah. But 5 million is a significantly smaller number than the 383 million.
Oh, yeah. Oof. All right. Good.
Anyways.
Good. Well, so you want me to jump into my topic, or you want to go?
Yeah.
You've been talking through all the follow-up.
Well, you have two topics, and my topic was my topic's short.
Well, like I said, I didn't do much reading last week. I kind of unplugged and did a lot of work outside. So when it came time to prep for the show tonight, I was like, wow, Eric's stolen my things for follow-up. So I actually ran out to Schneier on security and was like, oh, I bet Bruce Schneier has posted something interesting. What's he posted this last week? and so my two things and my fun thing are actually all from Bruce because he's cool.
Well, there you go.
But the first one is the link about China building facial recognition for people wearing masks. So facial recognition is obviously we use it everywhere, or it's in use in a lot of places around the world. Although the UK is doing a lot more than even the US these days, but it's there. But I don't think anywhere more so than China. So masks though is kind of a tricky thing about it. So the couple interesting things that I pulled out of this was that, prior to this work, the company said that its cameras only recognized people in masks about half the time, compared with 99.5% for full face recognition. So significantly worse. But so, and that they've now got the program up to 95% accuracy in lab tests, and they claim more accurate in real life, but who knows? I'll take that with a grain of salt. But they claim that because they say they take multiple photos if they don't detect it on the first one. But the other thing that I said, okay, that's how they're doing this is, they're basically doing almost like adversarial machine learning for this, for basically training the model against, people that have their faces covered. But they've done that by both having a number of real masked photos. So, because essentially what they need is they need to increase their training set, but with a training set that has people in masks, but they need a labeled training set. So it says that they asked their 2,000 or so employees for photos of themselves wearing masks so that they could label them, right? And then that they also created another database of 6 million photos, but they used artificially generated masks with different styles to reflect the ones commonly worn in China. So artificially occluding the features, the lower half of the face.
That sounds like that shouldn't work. I mean, unless they're just ignoring the whole bottom part of the face, but I would expect you would still want to see part of the face because you could probably see something wrapped around a nose, or, the length from your eyes to your chin. I don't know what the facial recognition stuff measures, but artificially, basically photoshopping some masks on there feels like it shouldn't work. But what do I know?
They didn't have a example of this. I mean, I can imagine that they could do it. I can imagine it being done well enough that it would suffice for like a first attempt to, what do you do to get over the hump to build a data set that will let you do training? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would imagine that a longer term, more accurate way of doing it would be to, wherever a facial recognition activity is going to happen and somebody comes up to it with a mask, take the picture and then have them, move the fit mask down so that you actually do the real identification, and then bind those together so that you have a labeled masked and unmasked for, everybody that goes through a particular quote unquote turnstile or something along those lines. Like that's one of the ways that you could probably gather that kind of data for, over a period of time. But, I'm definitely a get off of my lawn kind of guy when it comes to this. But I also, it's very clearly coming. We talked a little bit about this when I was talking about the Google reverse image search. How aggressive it is with looking for people versus looking for things, and that one of the ways to force it to look at items instead of people is to mask out the person in photos. So there's a lot of money, effort, research being poured into facial recognition. And a little bit closer to home, I'm an iPhone guy, and I've got the Face ID, and it's really nice. It's really nice. In fact, my wife, this is her first phone her current phone is the first phone that had Face ID on it, and she really was reluctant to give up the button. But now that she has, I think she's pretty happy with it too. But there's a big difference between that and, Big Brother.
Yeah.
So there is that. Anyway, so that's one. My second article is another one of novel ways to trigger the assistance in a tube. So we talked, and I looked back to see when it was, and it's been a long time. It was episode 24. So, what was that, 97 episodes ago? It was a long time ago. About
2 years ago.
Is that, I guess, practically weird. Okay, time goes fast. Yeah. So we've talked about some other things in the past about how researchers have triggered these devices using sound waves that aren't audible to humans. So, ultrasonic or lasers, I feel like we did at one point. But these are... What's novel about this is it used a solid desk. So it's basically put something on the back of a phone, set the phone on the desk away from, a short distance away, at least, from the items or from the tube. And then it could vibrate the desk basically in a way to trigger the device, and to do it in a way that passed voice recognition.
Because that's been the new big deal, right? Is now we can recognize your voice.
Right. So
your kids don't order. Remember back in the early days when kids would order hundreds of reams of toilet paper? Those were the days.
Back when you could order toilet paper? Yeah, no, that's That's good. So yeah, this says that in theory, the voice assistants should only respond to the owner's voice, but these can now be cloned using machine learning software such as Lyrebird or Lyrebird, Lyrebird, as was the case in this test. So it says it is a defense of sorts because you need to capture and clone the victim's voice in order to have it. So they're not faking it out; they are cloning it. So that's a little bit harder. So the one other thing I think I was going to say about this one was what? It was that they successfully deployed the attack on 17 different smartphones from Apple, Google, Samsung, Motorola, Xiaomi, and Huawei. Successfully deploying the surfing attack against 15 of them. But then they also said that the two that they were unable to successfully do, they thought were based on the construction of the phones. I guess I don't remember them explicitly saying it, but I think they implied that maybe they had rubber on the outside instead of metal or something like that. So it would, dampen the effects of the vibrations passing through the hard surface. So that sort of makes sense.
So it's it's an advertisement for rubber cases.
Have your phone in a case. Right. Well, I got mine in a case. So anyway, that was those were the ones that I went and grabbed real quick because I thought they were interesting. So what did you pick out this week?
Since we had so much on Zoom, I actually changed mine. I had another Zoom.
I was going to say this is different,
but yes, I changed it at the last minute because I just can't do Zoom again. But unfortunately, I'm doing coronavirus. So this one is a group of hackers, and this is not necessarily a vulnerability in anything, but there is a group of attackers that have been going after a D-Link and Linksys routers. So the router that you probably have in your home, or maybe one of the routers you have in your home for doing your Wi-Fi, and simply the hackers are doing brute force attacks to guess the admin password. We've talked about default passwords in the past. And then what they do once they have guessed the password to your router, they will then send the DNS traffic. They change the DNS servers to route to their own servers, and the DNS servers basically are what allow you to browse the internet. And once they have changed that default, the DNS routing to their servers, then they send you to apparently somewhat legitimate looking website when you try to browse certain sites that says, it's a COVID-19 Inform app. Install this app to have the latest information and instructions about the coronavirus, the World Health Organization, part of the UN Sustainable Development Group. Download. And of course, it's downloading from a random S3 bucket. Mm-hmm. And it's an executable, and it installs a Trojan on your device or on your computer. And what it tries to do is steal account credentials from browsers and crypto wallet. We haven't talked about cryptocurrency in a while. So that's essentially what this is trying to do. It's trying to brute force a password on your router, get you to install some software. So a phishing attempt, essentially. And then it will try to steal passwords and cryptocurrency you may or may not have.
Yeah. Oh. And taking advantage of people's proclivity to click on things of, corona related at the moment.
Yeah, because it claims to come from the World Health Organization.
All right. You want to do something fun?
Sure. You want to flip a coin, or you want me to go first? Because mine kind of meanders.
Yours meanders. Go ahead. Meander me away.
So my something fun, I noticed I used to keep track of, I had a speed test. I had written an app and I was keeping track of my speed, and it was posting to a Google App Engine website that I've had forever. And I had 5 years of my personal website, my personal home speed test data. And recently, with just things that have changed around, I got rid of it, and I've been wanting to upgrade. And I noticed on Tom's Hardware, there was an article about a Raspberry Pi project for a network monitor. And I thought, well, this would be cool. And so I went and read it, and it describes the project, but there's no code, and it doesn't say how, it just kind of gives an architectural overview, and it talks about it. So I was kind of disappointed that it didn't actually have code that I could go steal. Let me rephrase.
Code that you can leverage.
Code that I could go leverage and potentially contribute back to if I found some interesting things. And it didn't. But the reason why it's my something fun is because the guy's handle is Mr. Canoehead. And when your handle is Mr. Canoehead, I think to myself, I need to go find out why his handle is Mr. Canoehead. So I Google Mr. Canoehead. And did you know there was a Canadian sketch comedy show called Four on the Floor?
No.
Well, you've heard of SCTV or The Kids in the Hall?
Yes.
SCTV, Bob and Doug McKenzie, Strange Brew, John Candy, Martin Short came out of SCTV. Second City Television, I think, is what the acronym stands for. And Kids in the Hall, the most famous one I know of was Dave Foley. He was on News Radio. I used to love that show. Anyways, Dave Foley. So he was in the Actors Kids in the Hall. So, but I had never personally heard of Four on the Floor.
I have not heard of them.
Well, Googling the Four on the Floor, the show's most famous character, it's a sketch comedy show as well, was Mr. Canoehead. And Mr. Canoehead is the quintessential Canadian superhero. I'm reading from the Wikipedia website now. On a canoeing trip in Algonquin Park, he was hit by lightning while portaging his aluminum canoe, which became permanently welded to his head. As a crime fighter, he would capture criminals by turning around so that the canoe knocked them over.
Oh my gosh.
There is my something fun.
I can totally picture it. I should actually, is there an image on the Wikipedia? Let me go to the Wikipedia page.
Yes, there is.
Oh my gosh. Profile of Mr. Canoehead.
No. Hold on. Let me see. I'll find you the link.
There we go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
That is hilarious. Okay.
My something fun was not necessarily the Raspberry Pi project, but just the rabbit hole that I went down trying to find out what the heck is Mr. Canoehead.
That must be a relatively small canoe because
it's a one-head canoe.
It's a one-head canoe. Oh gosh. Yeah, we have a canoe, and let me say I couldn't carry it over my head like that. Oh, funny. That's funny. Okay. Well, that's great. My something fun, as I mentioned earlier, I think I might actually give you a second something fun, but my main something fun was also something that came from Bruce Schneier, because every Friday he does something about squid, which is just quirky and mostly cool, and I think it's great. But
Squid Fridays.
Yeah, so I sometimes will look at that and go whatever. But this one was like, oh, that's super cool. So this is a discovery that squid have the ability to edit their own DNA.
What?
Like on the fly. So the exact quote is, revealing yet another superpower in the skillful squid, scientists have discovered that squid massively edit their own genetic instructions.
Oh, what?
Right? So
I don't know how that works.
This is totally cool. So let's see. I pulled out a couple of quick things here, but it says the discovery provides another jolt to the central dogma of molecular biology, which states that genetic information is passed faithfully from DNA to messenger RNA to the synthesis of proteins. So in 2015, Rosenthal and colleagues, presumably the Rosenthal was one of the authors of this, yes, colleagues discovered that squid edit their messenger RNA instructions to an extraordinary degree, orders of magnitude more than humans do, allowing them to fine-tune the type of proteins produced in the nervous system. But we thought all the RNA editing happened in the nucleus, and then the modified messenger RNA are exported out of the cell, says Rosenthal. But now we're showing that squid can modify the RNAs out in the periphery of the cell. That means theoretically they can modify protein function to meet the localized demands of the cell. Gives them a lot of latitude to tailor the genetic information as needed. And the final thing was that the team also showed that messenger RNA are edited in the nerve cell's axon, which is the long part that goes between nerve cells, at a much higher rate than in the nucleus. So I'm, as you know, and from me saying many times on the show, I'm not a biologist. I am much better with things that are not and never have been alive. But that's really cool. And it reminds me of the comment from scorpions like a few weeks ago that we were discovering that scorpions can create, like, I think they said, up to 200
tailor
different
their poison
proteins, right, in their poisons. And so, and plus, I mean, squid and octopus are crazy cool. So that's awesome. But anyway, I thought that was I saw the headline and I was like, what? Okay, that's got to be my something fun. So check that out. And then I'll give you a quick little bonus something fun, which have you read the Mistborn series?
No, I have not.
So another series by my second favorite author, which is Brandon Sanderson. And the reason I was a little late getting here to podcast tonight was because my younger boy and I were finishing listening to an audible of book 2 of the Mistborn series. So, but if you have not read or have not listened to the Mistborn series, I think the book 1 might be called The Final Empire and book 2 is called The Well of Ascension. But that is a fantastic series. So,
how's it different from The Way of Kings?
It's a completely different series.
I know it's a completely different series, but
I will say that one of the things about Brandon Sanderson is he's going to drive us all crazy, because if something happens to him before he completes a whole bunch of these series, we're going to all be really upset. But many of his series take place in what he calls the Cosmere. So it's kind of like the extended Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it takes place in another shard of the Cosmere from The Way of Kings. So although there is no direct link that you know of, they are in the same universe. So until they have a Cosmere assemble. Exactly. At some point we will have Cosmere assemble. Exactly. So, right. But we'll see. Anyway, it's a good book. Good series if you like sci-fi, or I guess it's more fantasy than sci-fi. All right, man. Call it a show? It's a show. All right. Call it a show. Well, be safe. Everybody wash your hands. I hope that you're still listening to podcasts. You can find some time somewhere in some place in your house instead of on your commute to pull out some headphones. Yeah, as someone earlier today said, I have 2 things to tell you 3 times. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Don't touch your face, don't touch your face, don't touch your face. Oh, that's very good. Good advice. Good advice for the modern world. Alrighty. All right, Eric. Have a good night. I'll see you later. We'll see you, John. Bye.